Hello, this is Farrell Vincent with Nation 473. Wanted to get on the microphone today to talk about our most recent void, actually. Found myself with something to say because we ended up against Nation 588. And they had like a 2.5 billion point lead going into fighting phase. And we won. Um, and the rankings are drastic. Um, so, we're looking at a 5 billion point lead going in to the last, like after the last round completed, over 8 billion points scored for our alliance. Um, right. Everyone in 473 did phenomenal this time around. I mean, everyone beat their other alliances. Like, this is their top alliance, or at least it was, it still is. And I mean, they just didn't do all that good. Um, this is its own special story, but I mean, come on, they have 1.4 billion BP and they scored twice that in points. Like, they at least did something, right? Same thing here. Their second place alliance did something. GTN was really just non-existent for them. And like a lot of these points that like HXM earned was from their cities getting zeroed out. When it comes to 588, it's a cautionary tale. And that's why I wanted to make this video. There's a reason nations have rules. There's a reason why nations are very, very, very particular about trying to make sure that people are not farming in the middle of void. Right? This nation, I cannot tell you how many hits I've gotten like this one right here throughout the day, right? I cannot tell you how many elite mines I got to attack because I'd have to go through here, this giant thing, and figure out from all of this how many elite mines are there? How many, people farming was there to make this happen the way it did, right? Like, it was a rough event for them. Um, and I think that's why we really do harp on nation rules as a uh, big point, right? Like, the reason we have rules about, no T5 troops and farms is because this is a farm. And yeah, that's a really bad hit for me in general. Like, I'm actually trying to figure out why that went so badly. But you can see here, there's T9 troops. Okay. So, fair warning, I was just sending long range to lose some troops this event, but you can see like a lot of these, right? There's a ton of these. There's a ton of these farms that have all of these troops that all give points all over the place. Um, right? There's a ton of people just gathering, right? There's a ton of people that were trying to, pick up some extra, I don't know, what is this, minerals during the event. And I mean, sure, you get half points on hitting somebody on a tile, but that's 19,000 points 19,210 kills for free. I didn't lose anything. I don't even think, yeah, I didn't even send my Titans, right? Like, I literally just sent troops, mid or long range troops, as a mid range city with 485% mid range or long range attack, right? Like, I am doing this to people with 485% LRA, which is like our nation's weakest members still have more than that, right? Like, this wasn't a hard event for me to score high in. It did take a very long time, right? We're talking, I played for approximately 18 hours. It was long. I was number one clear up until about 30 seconds before the end of Void, when AKE managed to get a monstrous hit in right before things were over. So he managed to get 1,000,000 kills while I was on my way to a comedy show. So it was unfortunate. I was so close to getting Void Tyrant, and I tried real hard, but it was close. So, kind of the long story short about this, make sure your nation has some form of rules to prevent people from gathering during events, right? You really understand, 22 billion as points given up. Like, it's a lot. Like, you can just see it's a lot, right? Most of this was from fighting. Yeah, sure, their top 3 alliances did better than our, 4th place alliance? That's great for them, I suppose. And yeah, sure, their 7th place alliance did a little better than our 7th place alliance, but that's only because they got zeroed out, not because they fought. And the list goes on, right? So this is the cautionary tale. You need rules in your nation for something. You need to have some kind of guardrails to prevent against these kinds of things. And if anyone ever wants to point at a video on YouTube and say, this is why you need it, you can point at mine. And you can point literally at any one of these reports. You can point at all of them, right? You can point at any number of these reports. Because these were free. These were all very, very free. Having people in an alliance that didn't even show up in those top rankings, right, have this many troops, it's all free. Consolidating power, making sure that you keep things in line, make sure those guardrails are in place. This is going to help. So I think every nation at a minimum needs a couple of rules. First and foremost, no farming during Void or Frenzy. Come on. It's one day. It's not a big deal. If you absolutely have to farm with T4 troops. I would prefer no one does, because believe me, it's better that way. But some people did actually farm with T4 troops, right? Some people farmed like this, and these weren't hit because these are mostly T4 troops. So if you absolutely have to farm, this is the way to do it. And if you're really looking to trap people, this is not a bad idea, because somebody's going to see those 32 units and think that they're all high tier. Just send your Titans next time, because they'll get more kills for you. If you absolutely have to do this, that's what you want to do. This is really important, but no farming during Void and Frenzy. I really highly recommend everyone implements a no T5 plus troop on farms, right? It does 2 things. First off, they give points. So, depending on how many farms there are out there, in this case, we found thousands of them. But depending on how many farms that nation has, that all needs to be policed, right? Which is its own headache. But making sure that people understand that those troops are not benefiting the nation at all. And if a shield drops ever for those troops, if somebody gets busy, if cell signal goes out, or if you just space it because it's your farm, then you're going to give up, a few million points here and there. And sure, in the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. But when, 3,000 people are doing it, like this nation, 588, right? It's a big deal. It adds up. The other part of that, though, the second part to the T5 thing on farms, comes down to as your nation consolidates. Your rankings in events like Global Conquest. You'll especially see it in Global Conquest here in a couple of days. And Void, Frenzy, your top 10 Alliance BP plays a factor in the overall matchmaking. There's a few other factors too, right? Nation spend, I believe, is on there. Your general like win rate on events like Elite War, participation. I think all of those play into effect, or at least that's what I've heard through the grapevine. I will say Camel has never, that I've seen, posted their exact matchmaking criteria so that we could figure it out. It would be nice, but that doesn't happen. So the reason I mention it is, those troops all have BP, and the higher tier, the more BP. And generally, your farm alliances will start to creep up in power. And so you really want to make sure that the people who own the alliances in the top, whatever. In our case, it's literally 8 through 10, right? These top 3 alliances, we need to make sure that they understand the point of why they're there, right? They need to understand that their troops matter, that their, missing members do too, right? Like GSV is a great example of a lot of people who are kept in this alliance because they've been here forever, but they don't play, right? I don't mind the farms, but like a lot of the alliances or a lot of the members who haven't been on in 30, 40 days need to be kicked out of these alliances because that will lower your top 10 BP, which is going to help your matchmaking. But also not having a bunch of extraneous T10 plus troops or T9, T7, T8, T5, whatever it is, not having those troops in there is also going to help keep that alliance BP low. Because like MXM has 86 members and is 229 BP. And, we have TIE Warrior that's 84 members and 167. They, I know, do not follow the rules. These guys, I have never seen a single city that has broken the rules. There's a difference, right? You can see that drop in BP. So there's 130 million BP we need to make up for just because they don't want to listen. Conversely, we hit them a lot. I don't actually think they have anyone that's breaking the rules, or at least I've not seen it. But that said, we do scout them pretty regularly, and they're fairly well managed, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll check Bob's farm later. But yeah, like that is the lesson, right? Is when you're talking about top 10 BP, it would be great if, these 88 members, these 86 members, these 88 members, these 89 members, they're at 100, we're at 92, right? So there's enough space to eliminate one of these alliances. I forgot about RVN. RVN is fantastic, though, so I'm not going to yell at them too much. These guys kick people fast. They could be a top 3 alliance if they decided to take people, but they don't. Look at your BP like what it is. It's a burden. Look at your participation like what it is. It is something that you need to manage. You need to show up. I mean, why are you playing this game? So I'm going to leave it at a little bit of that, right? Like we've talked plenty about troops, BP, and burden. We've talked plenty about, rankings and how that goes, right? Because the last thing you ever want in your nation is to have a 900 million BP alliance that scores 741,000 points, or worse yet, an 809,000 BP alliance scoring 459 million points, right? This isn't acceptable. This is borderline acceptable. this is what it should look like. It should look like 709 million BP scoring 1.1 million or billion points because they actually play the game. Thank God these guys showed up finally. The first time since this nation merged, but it was only under the threat of violence. It's only when rules come in and people have to follow them that we ever got there. Because I'm just saying, anytime you have to make a post like this one in your nation, things have gotten too far. 588 needs to have a post much more aggressive than this one. So don't let yourself fall into that. This is your cautionary tale. And I appreciate all of your guys' time. I know a fun video on alliance, or sorry, in this case, nation management is always going to be a good thing. But really, I think it helps. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.